And what do you say? And let's actually talk about that term, white privileged male, which both of us are.
I don't like any of those terms.
Well, me neither, but I'm sure people would call me that. What do you make of those terms, just as they are? Bret Easton Ellis almost named his book that, and he just truncated it to white. And he's echoed some similar things about this. And as a gay man, he's called out a lot of this absolute ludicrous behavior by the gay community. He's been called out by the community for years about not supporting and getting in line with everything they're saying, from Academy Awards to whatever. So yeah, your thoughts?
Well, I don't like when I hear white. I don't like the thing, because it returns us to race when I think we should be trying to avoid it. Because if you open up that chasm, there's hell in there. So I think we should step back from it. But the way in which white privilege is now weaponized just disturbs me enormously, because I know what's going to be played back down the road. I know it already because I see it. There's already a playback happening, and I find it every single country I go. I noticed it for the last 3 years. Everybody's talking about IQ. Everywhere. Not everyone, but everywhere that discussion is starting. And I think what's happening is people are fed up being told they're privileged because they're white, and they're starting to look into what is the ugliest discussion in the world, which is inherited IQ differentials. And that's it. I say this in the book, it's like that might be a weapon some people are going to use to hit back.
It's a bigger weapon.
So I'm like, can we just, before that happens, avoid this whole thing? Can we go back to equal? Can we not have people's skin pigmentation in any situation used against them, including white? And then you get onto the thing, male, I'd say the same thing. I can think of lots of communities I've been to around the world where there are plenty of men who have never worked or have worked intermittently, have provided to the extent they can for their families, for themselves, but you think they're privileged? You think they're privileged? You think that white men in the north of England in former mill towns are privileged? You think all my forebears were privileged? You know? And then you get to the level beneath that, which is, who's to call any of this anyway? Like, what the hell do you know about the person you're doing that to? Well, you've got white male privilege. Okay. Work out in every single situation the legitimacy of that claim today. Because this happened the other day with The Guardian. Guardian writes a leader column, the paper's view, about the release of the memoirs of David Cameron. Not a prime minister I'm an enormous supporter of anyway. But David Cameron's memoirs come out. The Guardian attacks him. The Guardian says in its editorial that David Cameron, that the setbacks he had in his life were not real setbacks because of his privilege. And they included the fact that his first son died.
Yeah.
And they said, even that, him sitting at the deathbed of his own son, wasn't as bad as it would be for other people because he had privilege. That's the kind of dehumanizing route you go down if you start playing this game. You end up judging the extent to which a father has the right to mourn his child because you're playing a privilege game. And I think, among other things, this game, it cannot be played because it can never be won, because it can't be solved, it can't be ended. We don't know hour by hour where we might be in this hierarchy. Is the person who inherited a huge amount of money, for instance, I'm sadly not in such a situation myself, but let's say a person who inherited a huge amount of money is naturally privileged. Well, they've definitely got one advantage, they've got a load of cash. Does that mean that they are a privileged person in every other aspect of their life? Let's say they have a terrible personal life, you know? Let's say they have a horrible heroin addict problem. or their child does, or their wife does, or their husband. Where do they go exactly in this hierarchy? What about the very well-off person who's not white? Where are they in comparison to a not well-off white person? Where exactly do they meet? If you've got 5 million quid and you're Indian, do you meet the unemployed white person somewhere? Who wants to play this impossible game?
And the next thing that's talked about is then the reparation game.
Right.
Which is kind of a derivative of privilege somehow.
Well, I've got a couple of fast-track ways to try to stop that. One is my idea. Maybe I could try it out on you. That I would favour reparations to try to address the problem of the most prejudiced against people in history being, after the fact, rewarded for the prejudice that's happened to their people. And that's why the American government should send people to every household. Everyone is white, everyone is black in America, and takes the money from them and give it to the Jews. Would that sort everything out? No. I think it might make things a lot worse. But I mention it because
you're choosing one group
right,
for reparations.
But would anyone deny that of all the people in history, the Jews have probably had it worst? If you want to play that game, I suggest that people don't. But if you wanted to play that game, you could do that.
Yeah, and some Swiss banks cut some checks about 10 years ago.
Right.
For that.
But my point, you could do it endlessly.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. Not just from the Holocaust, but the pogroms before, and much more. The expulsion of Jews from England, the expulsion of Jews from Spain. We could do this on everything. I mean, there have been some people recently who've actually even advocated. I mean, the craziness never stops. Some people have actually argued that there should be reparations for gays. But I mean, so among other things, this is one of the reasons why we can't get the present in a sane light. Because we're so insane about the past. Like, we have such a bad understanding of history. Obviously, it's because in America and Britain and everywhere else, history is taught so badly. People learn almost nothing, and they can put almost nothing in context. And they suffer from the fallacy that they're better than their forebears because they know things their forebears didn't. Like, I know exactly, I would have been anti-Hitler in 1939. Yeah, sure you would, because you know how it turned out. You know who won. If you don't know who won, and no one does as you're going through it, you sure? Are you sure you want to take an easier route? And that's the case with case after case. Why didn't they see the First World War coming? Because they didn't know it was going to be the First World War. And we have this version we do ourselves all the time. And I have a shortcut to that, which is to say to people, one of my editors makes this point to me. He says, assume, because everybody in history did things that we look back at and we say, what were they thinking? A productive thing is to try to work out what we're doing now, and we will be doing things that people after us say, what were they thinking? Try to work them out now in order to avoid doing them. That's a productive thing to do. That's much more productive than doing this strange trawl through history to find victims and perpetrators and work out exactly the cash balance that people should get as a result. All, by the way, ignoring the fact that most of history was hell for everyone. And that to be born now is to have absolutely won the historical lottery. It's unbelievable luck.